Hello and welcome back to my garden. Today I'm going to be collecting seeds. I know, super exciting topic, but if you like to save yourself a buck or two, and if you have certain varieties which you really like, why continue to go out and spend that $3 to $5 to $10 to $20, whatever it is that you spend on that particular type of seed over and over again. Obviously, I'm standing right here in front of a red zinnia. This is, I think, a giant red zinnia, and I've really enjoyed it. It was the first year growing it. I may even have some seeds left over from planting this because I didn't use up the whole seed packet. Probably used maybe half of it, if that. This is what's left of one of the plants that I had, and I see some seed heads that look like they're about ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop them off and keep them, and I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that I'd take care of my seeds. And if you're an experienced gardener, which many of you I'm sure are, please feel free to chime in, throw those comments below. It helps the YouTube algorithm, and it also helps anybody who may be new to gardening with their seed collecting. Now, I'm not sure why, but I've been told or I've heard on the interwebs that putting your seeds in a plastic bag is not a great idea. And that might be maybe condensation issues within the bag. And if the seeds do get wet, then they're either going to start germinating or they're going to start rotting. That's the only thing I can think of. If you know a better excuse, please leave those comments below. I'm going to take this paper bag. And the reason I'm going to use this paper bag is because I don't really want to process these seeds. And by process, I mean, I don't want to take the flower head and try to start detaching all the petals and dried up leaves and stuff. I'm just going to cut the flower head right off and drop it in the bag. At some later point in time, I will then play with the flower head and I'll get rid of all the dried petals and whatever else is there, and then separate the seeds for planting next spring. But for right now, I'm just going to chop these right off here and I'm going to pop them into this bag. Now this flower head looks totally done and ready to go. So again, just cut it off, drop it in. It'll finish drying inside the bag. Same thing with this one. This one, I don't know if you can tell, is still got a little bit of color to it, so it's still drying out, and the seeds could still be forming. I'm not an expert, and I didn't stay at Holiday Inn Express last night, so if you guys know different, leave those comments below. And that's how I collect seeds in a small paper bag. Many of you experienced gardeners already know this, but if you're new to seed collecting or new to gardening, you don't have to clip every single head. Within each flower head, generally, this is a general rule of thumb, I would say, because it depends upon the plant, there could be anywhere from dozens to hundreds of seeds when the plant is done. So if you collect 2 or 3 or 4 flower heads, that may be all the seeds you need. Unless, of course, you are harvesting for a business, in which case you want every single head that goes over, and then you would have thousands, if not tens of thousands of seeds. There's a few other seeds I want to go grab around the yard. Let's go do that now. Here we are still here in the vegetable garden, and I have a bunch of marigolds here, obviously, and many of these flowers are starting to go over, or they have gone over, and I'm going to just grab a couple. Now, I've already grabbed a bunch of these yellow marigold seeds, but I am going to grab a couple more. I'm going to see if I can show you guys some of the seeds on the inside. Again, this is more for the new, inexperienced gardener versus you more experienced gardeners. So you get experienced gardeners, you know all this. You guys can please watch the video, but and correct me if I'm doing something wrong, because he keeps saying I'm a novice gardener. But I've got some seed heads here. Let's go look at them on the potting bench. I have my 3 flower heads that are all spent, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out an envelope and I'm going to mark it. Now, I don't know the specific type of marigold, and honestly for me it doesn't matter, but if it mattered to you, you'd want to write down all the variety information and stuff, but I'm just going to say marigold, and I'm going to say it was collected in 11/24. So that's sort of important, putting down a date on an envelope or a bag, and this way you know how old those seeds are. The older a seed is, the less likely it is to germinate unless kept in very specific conditions. And if you're wondering about these envelopes, I got these from Gardener Supply, not sponsored. You can go out to Amazon, buy envelopes. The paper bag that I used in the beginning of this video, I purchased from my local store. I think I got like 100 for like $3. Now I could just drop the seed head directly in. So this is one seed head, and if I pinch the middle, there's a bunch. Oops. Here's a bunch. So right there, I probably have, I don't know, 50 seeds maybe, because each one of those grassy looking things is a seed. And in the case of the marigold, it's just, I'm just trying to grab the middle there, pull out the seeds. Some plants are a little tougher to remove the seeds from. There we go. I mean, just in this little handful is probably all the marigolds I'll plant next year. There we go. So right there is probably easily 100 seeds, if not more. And then I'm just going to take it, drop it in my envelope. I'll seal that up with tape later. These seeds are now ready to go for springtime. Okay, here we are at my Mexican sunflower. And this plant came up as a rogue this year. I did not plant it. Seeds had fallen from last year, and it just started coming up. So I let it come up, but I can see there's some seed heads ready. The seed heads are quite prickly. So when I go to process these, I will wear gloves. But in the meantime, I can turn around and maybe cut. Stem seems to be a little soft there. Drop that in. Drop that in. And I'll take this one. Drop that in. And I don't see, oh, there's maybe one more over here. And there's my prickly Mexican sunflowers, and I labeled the envelope beforehand to make life a little easier for me. Now I still have 2 or 3 envelopes at least of Mexican sunflower, and though they may be a few years old, the seed should still be viable, maybe not all the seeds in the envelope. So this is another good reason to collect your seeds so that you know that you have a fresh supply of seeds. Or if you have a lot of seeds, so for instance, as this Mexican sunflower continues to go to seed, I can continue to cut off more flower heads that have gone to seed. I can then process those, package them up, and I can actually give them away as Christmas presents, which is maybe what I'll do this year. It's not a bad idea. I just came up with that. What do you do with your extra seeds? Do you gather extra seeds and give them away as Christmas presents or birthday presents? Let me know in those comments below. Let's keep going. One of the flowers that I grew this year, and I've actually grown it for a few years now, but I really enjoy it, and I've been growing more of it as I go along, is licorice white agastache. Now this got planted and took off very late this year, but normally it gets to about 4 foot tall, which is 3 to 4 foot tall, which is really nice, and it provides a nice sort of backdrop to some of the other plants. It also is deer resistant, highly deer resistant, which is fantastic. And you can see I've got a couple of these plants here which have gone to seed. Now I could just chop off the flower head here, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my fingers, pinch around the flower head, and pull up the seeds right off the stem. I was doing this the other night when I was out walking with Sophie, and it was really fun. And I'm sure there's other plants you could do basically the same thing with, just pull the seeds right off. The other thing that you could do, if you so wish and desire, is, well, for instance, as I mentioned a minute ago with my Mexican sunflower, seeds have dropped. I'm sure seeds have already dropped from that, and next year I'll probably get more rogue or self-sowed seeds. So you could either shake, or in this instance, I'm just gonna, and then I can just crumble that flower head around, and hopefully next spring I will get more licorice white agastache growing up. Oh, that smells incredible. Growing up here in this location without me having to plant more. But in case none of the seeds that I just dropped on the ground take, I've got an envelope ready to go. And one of the plants that I grew this year, which I really like, is this blue Victory salvia. And I see it has a number of stalks which have already gone over to seed because these flowers are done, which is fabulous. And I still may have some seed back in the house, but what I'm going to do is just collect a bunch of these seeds here, so that I definitely have a supply for next year, and then I don't have to go out and spend $3 to $5 on more seed when I already have a plethora. And similar to the agastache, I'm just sort of gonna put my finger here at the base and slide it right up, and then dump all those seeds right into the package. I could also cut the stem off to ensure that I capture more of the seeds. That should be more than enough. I've already taken cuttings of this and they're doing all right. And hopefully this plant, even though it's considered a hardy annual or tender perennial, hopefully it does come back next year in this spot, and I'll hope to plant out more next year throughout the garden. So I now have a box full of seeds that I've collected from around the garden, and there's a few other plants that I do want to get seed from. Unfortunately, they're not quite there yet. They're not quite ready to collect the seeds, but I will be collecting those seeds hopefully in the next few weeks as the temperatures cool off and the flowers start to do their thing. If you guys have any questions, comments, etc., please leave them below. This is something that was on my list of things to do for the fall. As I mentioned before, I'm doing my 30-day fall blitz, trying to make a video every single day and get a whole lot of projects done around the garden over the next 30 days. And this was one of them, to go around and collect a bunch of seeds, especially from plants that I want to grow again next year. And I don't necessarily want to spend, I don't mind spending the money on zinnia, but why spend the money on a zinnia if I already have the seeds that I can grow? The Blue Victory Salvia, I can collect those seeds. I'll do the same thing with the Big Blue when it starts to go to seed, because I also enjoy that variety. But I've also taken propagation cuttings, so I don't need to go out and spend more money on those seeds. I can then spend money on other varieties of salvias or zinnias and not have to reinvest in a plant that I already have, basically. If you are thinking about gardening, if you've stumbled across this video somehow and you're thinking about gardening, or you're considering gardening, but you really don't want to go out and spend the money on a $12 plant, or even don't want to spend, you know, $5, $10, $20, $30, or $100 on seeds, see if you can find a friend, a relative, maybe a mother, an aunt, an uncle, a father, whoever grows in your family, or somebody you may know grows in their family, and see if you can go to their gardens or their yards and grab some seeds from them. You know, they may have plants that are going over. Grab those for free, and then start trying to grow them next spring and see what happens. Worst case scenario, you didn't spend any money and no real loss, but best case scenario, you do get some free plants out of it, and that's always a win. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, click that bell icon to be notified of when I do post a new video, because I think the next video might be more interesting than this video. I have to do some harvesting of a plant that I grew for the first time this year that I've never grown before. Maybe some of you have. So again, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And with all that, I'm going to catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.